Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm gonna show you how to build a metaverse with Wonderland Engine in hopefully 10 minutes or less. This is basically a workshop I did recently for the Global XR conference. So if you want to have a look at the recording there to follow slowly, step by step, then go ahead. I'm just gonna rush through here to make the 10 minutes. But the basics is we're gonna use these components, the JavaScript components we get from this project, which is an open source community project, and the Wonderland Engine, which is gonna give us all the rendering capabilities. So I already have Wonderland Engine open here, and I prepared some files that we're just gonna drop in, which is 3D models and code. And other than that, we're just gonna go get started. I'm gonna call this project Metaverse, use the VR template and create that project. We need network code, so I'm just gonna add a network controller here. And we're gonna call it network manager or something like that. And we need two components, the which we first need to copy from our prepared files here. I'm just gonna drop them in here. Let's see that that's there. And I'm just gonna add the models here as well. There we go. Now we should have these peer manager and the peer network player spawner. And quickly setting this up. Metaverse 1, 2, 3, whatever. Player head. We'll find over on the left here. Select the player head as in on VR camera. Left controller, no, that's the right hand, the right controller, and the left controller. And finally, the network player pool, which is the spawner here that we got here, and we don't need the voice for now. Head mesh, we will use some GLB file that we have here, which is the static quest controllers for the right and left hand. And in FBX, Lantis VR, which is a Sketchfab model you'll find on Sketchfab. I'll put the link in the description. We have this huge headset model that we will use Wonderland Engine for to scale down on import. So if we scroll down, find the model down here, I know that this is 0.04. Usually you just experiment a bit. And then you'll find it basically disappeared. But if we focus the object, we know, okay, it's somewhere here in this box, which is fine. We don't actually need these directly here. We're just going to delete them because we only need them for spawning our other players. So we're going to go ahead and use the group 4 cylinder, which is the headset for the head mesh. For the head material, we'll use Lambert, which is a gray material that came with the import. Then we want the controller left for the left hand mesh, the controller right for the right hand mesh. And we're just going to use pink and yellow for the controllers right now. We could also select the original materials, but let's leave it at that. Okay, so now we want to be able to host a small room and join a small room. So we're just going to go ahead and check the panel, duplicate the button, but not the button only, but the entire hierarchy, which, because I know that in this version there's a small bug, we're just going to duplicate it like this. And we're just going to move this out of the way with snapping. One to the left and one to the right. Here we go. And then we're just gonna adapt the labels to say host and join. Here we go. We have join, and here we have host. And that basically gives us the panel. Now we just need to make sure that the network that we use network buttons, which come also with the project that I showed you before, this open source project. So the cursor, we'll just select the cursor left here, up there. And host button is the second button, I believe. Is that right? Yes. And the join button is the first button. Finally, the peer manager object is the object we created below. Here we go. And now the buttons are set up as well, with one exception, that this duplicated button in the button component has a button mesh reference, which is still referencing the original button, and we wanted to reference a copy. So if we save that, we will see we already have basically network code running. We're not going to test this for speed reasons. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure to disable the teleport, which is currently on the, I believe, cursor, right, on the cursor. So I'm just going to add a VR active mode switch, which will ensure that the cursor only is used when we're entering VR. So here we go, VR active mode switch done. And I'm just going to add a WASD controls component so that we can navigate outside of VR. Where is it? There we go. And this needs the head object. So we select the non-VR camera for that. And done so far. So let's add a little component that ensures that the head object, which is currently the non-VR camera, changes to the eye left whenever we enter VR. So head switcher component is hereby created. Where's my head switcher? There we go. If I double click that, it opens the code editor I configured Windows to open. Let's add a parameter called VR head. Make that an object. We don't need a default here. We do need an init. We'll on XR session start. We're gonna add a callback, which is this on XR session start. Bind this to keep the scope. We do not need start. Instead, we will make this on XR session start, which also, by the way, passes the session, but we really don't need that. So all we want is, afterwards, we're going to add this to the same object that has the peer manager. So this object get component peer manager. Sorry, peer minus manager, of course. Manager. And we're going to add this peer manager variable here and then set the peer manager head, which is peer manager dot player head, if I remember correctly, to this dot VR head. Now let's add this component and see if the variables we added are correct. And if we go to network manager and add our new head switcher, we will be able to select the eye left for the VR head, and we can make sure that the player head property here is being set. Everything so far set up. Actually, like, this is almost everything we need to do. We can go to views, project settings, and VR AR to make sure that we set the framework to WebXR. And now we have AR framework set up, which means AR VR is set up because we used the VR template. AR is set up. We selected the framework. Great. Everything's done. We just maybe want something slightly more fancy than this weird plane down here. So let's see if in the models we have the, I think I do not have that here. So let's quickly see. I downloaded an arena from Sketchfab earlier, which is this. I'm just gonna add a new folder here, call that arena. Open this empty folder and then drop the files I downloaded into here. And then I'm just gonna import the scene. I'm not quite sure what happened here. But we'll just quickly let the textures compress down here. And I know that this model is 1000-fold too large, so I'm just gonna scale that down a bit, and we see, hey, this looks pretty decent. For some reason, our panel here grew a bit, so we're just gonna reload the project in a second. That might be a small bug, but we're still waiting for the textures to finish compressing because that'll save us doing that again in case it's in the middle of one texture. So here we go, we open recent Metaverse, and we see all of that is fixed again. Now all we need to do is like move this model down a bit so that it's actually something around here. make sure we disable this, and we scale up the collision so that we can walk around the entire place. And finally, we can just set up the light to be a bit brighter. And we finally have like our own little metaverse space out here. We could even go ahead and in like the rendering settings, make the sky somewhat more friendly. And maybe this is basically our metaverse. If we launch this now, then it'll package everything and open the browser for us, and we can see, hey, this is already a finished metaverse. If we open it twice, once on the right side and once on the left side, we can even demonstrate that the network code is running correctly. That's not what I wanted. There we go. We can host on the left, on the right, and join on the left. And then we can move around with WAS and D. And you can see this is the other player. And you can see it moving. And well, that's basically it. Done. Metaverse in pretty much 10 minutes. It works on smartphones, it works on the HoloLens, it works on the Oculus Quest, and it works on pretty much any other VR device. If you want to build this kind of metaverse yourself, go ahead and make sure to find my workshop for the Global XR conference and just go through that. It's about an hour, and I go through these steps a little bit more slowly. Feel free to install Wonderland Engine for free, download it at wonderlandengine.com, and hope to see you on our Discord community very, very soon.